Tell him, McCluskey. Tell him what time it is.
Little Hen says it's time to rock and roll.
All you people are so scared of me.
Come quietly or there will be trouble.
Man, that's just me.
I'm Batman.
This is Sparta!
There is a tiger in the bathroom!
I'm an excellent driver.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Pop quiz, hotshot.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
My name is Robert Hawkins. It's 6:42 a.m. on Saturday, May 23rd. Approximately 7 hours ago, something attacked the city. I don't know what it is. If you found this tape, I mean, if you're watching this right now, then you probably know more about it than I do.
Hello and welcome to this week's Monday Movie Show. We are live on Monday the 21st of March, so we're already 3 months into the year. Big films coming up this year, a couple of them this week, a couple the week after, but we're here to discuss some movie news, a look at the latest top 10, stop tripping over my tongue, and we'll look at reviews of some new movies as well. If you are listening to us live, you can join in. Bottom right hand corner of the speaker page there is a little speech bubble you can click on to join in and send us abuse and chat and things and comments on things that we're reviewing. If you've seen them, then do let us know. We've also got shout outs to things that come up later in the show, but also should shout out because we keep forgetting to do this at the start of the show. Our website, mondaymovieshow.co.uk. You can find us on Twitter at Monday Movie Show. Stuart, who's here with me, is on Twitter at Cryptic Tadpole. I'm on there at AHDVD, and you can also find us on Facebook as well at facebook.com/Monday Movie Show. So, going on with this week's show, what have we got coming up, Stuart?
10 Cloverfield Lane, The Boy, High Rise, Norm of the North, and Rock the Kasbah.
Yeah, so quite a few films there, and also then in cinema section afterwards, the DVD and Blu-ray releases will have some big films as well this week as well.
Mockingjay Part 2, Good Dinosaur, Hallow, Hallow,
Yep. You're rushing through those a bit rather quickly there.
Yeah, why not?
Are you in a mood or something tonight?
Why would I be in a mood? I'm never in a mood.
Yeah, okay. But before that, as usual, let's see about getting on with some movie news. Do you want to do yours first?
I never do mine first.
Okay. I've only got a few though. Not really big ones so much, but one is from an Arnold Schwarzenegger interview with Australia's Channel 9, where he was asked about the next Terminator film. Given the fact though that the last one, Terminator Genesis, was a bit of a flop, and then Paramount announced that they were not going to be doing the next one. They put the next one on hold. He has confirmed nothing in there in the interview, but he has said, I am looking forward to it, absolutely. This is also particularly strange because the next Terminator film would have been given a release date of March next year, so a year away, but now that release date has been taken up by the Baywatch movie, which is going to be starring Zac Efron and Dwayne Johnson.
We don't need either, to be honest. I've got a friend on Facebook, and he was the one who sort of like pointed me in the direction of the news when I already actually saw it, and he actually was one of the only two people on this planet who really liked the last Terminator film. Not thought that it was watchable, actually really liked it. And I question his taste. If he wasn't a horror fan, then I would probably unfollow him on Facebook. But yeah, it is questionable. There was a reason why they decided not to go ahead with another Terminator film, because the last one didn't perform well at the box office at all. And so, do we need another one? No. By the time they actually decide to greenlight another one, will Schwarzenegger actually be viable enough to play a Terminator? You should just forget it. He did a fantastic film in Maggie. He should attempt to do another one of those ones.
There's also to consider the fact that the last one was to be the first in a trilogy of new films, and now obviously that's been shelved until whenever. But the thing is, the reason they were trying to plan it and have it done that way is because they'll lose the license in so many years, and it will revert back to, I think it's James Cameron who owns the license when it's reverted back to him, obviously being the man who created the franchise and set up things originally. But that license will now revert back to him in, I think it's something like 4 years. So if they don't do another film and get one sorted and start filming or anything within the next couple of years, then it's not going to happen unless they can extend those rights. But then obviously that's going to cost them to do that.
It happens a lot. I think the genre where it happens the most is horror movies. If a company who's got the rights to a horror film doesn't decide to churn out another horrendous sequel, then they lose the rights to it. The biggest example, not Hellraiser, because Dimension has held the rights to that constantly, is Halloween. Halloween is now no longer under the guise of Dimension, which they have been doing them for the last 20 years. So now it's under somebody else, and they have to actually ship it around to a different company. So it's never unheard of, but when it does come to big films, people take note and they think that should it actually go back to the person who originally has the rights to it and goes away from the company who is pretty much just drilling it into the ground. And if it does that, could James Cameron save the Terminator franchise? I actually think he could. It would stop him from messing around with Avatar 2, 3 and 4. So if it goes back to him and then he ships it off to a different company to get them to have a little try of it to do something different, then it can only help it rather than harm it.
Well, if he did, he doesn't seem to really be interested in going back to it now. I think it's been that long for him.
It would still ship it off to somebody else who might actually, like I said, be able to create something different, because they just seem to be treading on exactly the same ground and try to make the story as complex and timey-wimey as they possibly can, when in fact when they attempt to do that, they have so many plot holes in the movie that geeks or huge massive fans of the series look at it and pick it apart badly. So you don't want that to happen in films. You don't want people to go to a movie and sit there and spot the mistakes. You want them to enjoy the film.
Okay, moving on. Daisy Ridley, one of the new stars of the Star Wars movies, after The Force Awakens, has confirmed that she had conversations about the Tomb Raider reboot. There's been notes throwing around that MGM and Warner Brothers are looking at doing a reboot of this, and fans and people have pointed out that she would be a good choice for this, being around about the right age and being English and being able to sort of pull off the accent from the film. Because of the fact the only ones that's been so far has been the two movies, the first one which was not bad, the second one which was pretty lauded by everyone, and that's the ones with Angelina Jolie in them.
Yeah, and go on, say the name of the director who's going to be directing the reboot. I
don't actually have that here. Is there a name connected with it?
Yeah, I said it last week and a couple of weeks ago. It's Roald Dahl, who did the Fristwild films. So yeah, he's the one who's going to be directing it. And Daisy Ridley, as I said last week, perfect choice.
Yeah.
With Lara Croft, considering that they do want to go down the route of the reboot video game series. So yeah, perfect choice, because she's got that style and look of Lara Croft in the previous Tomb Raider games.
I guess we'll see if this kind of style of film will work anymore or not, because we've got the Uncharted movie, if it is getting off the ground or not, because it seems to be isn't.
I like Roald Dahl for what he did with Fristwild. He sort of he took it back to the old-fashioned styles of slasher films, and so in a way it was sort of like injecting something old back into the series but giving it a bit more of a pulse. So if you can do that with Tomb Raider, especially, they need somebody to create something a bit more darker whilst not actually being humorous about it, because there is very little humour in the previous Tomb Raider games, hence why they were rated 18. And so it needs to be a bit more darker, a bit more adult orientated, rather than just sort of like cartoony.
Okay, moving on. My last piece of news is regarding the upcoming Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice, which obviously we know is coming out next week in cinemas here. This week, yeah. Next week we're doing a show. This week, yeah. It's coming out on Thursday night. Thursday there's midnight showings, aren't there, everywhere?
Yeah.
Yep. But Zack Snyder has confirmed in an interview with Hollywood Reporter regarding the R-rated nature of the DVD and Blu-ray home release version. He confirmed it during the interview that it was not a knee-jerk reaction to the success of Deadpool. It wasn't filmed or edited in the last week, and the DVD version will be roughly half an hour longer, containing stuff that we took out for the rating. It's not a hard R, there's no nudity, there's a little bit of violence.
Ooh, violence.
Yeah.
Yay.
So something in it. I mean, it'll probably be. I expect when it comes here, when it's released on DVD and Blu-ray, hopefully they'll do the same thing and release the uncut version as well. But if that's the case, it won't be an 18. It'll be 15.
Yeah. Yeah, it will be. It's just like what they've said with Suicide Squad as well, isn't it? They've always set out for Suicide Squad to be a PG-13, which by the looks of things, that's the certificate it's going to get.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a good sign, that is it, for Suicide Squad?
Well, I mean, saying that
PG-13.
Saying that, there is, I especially with one of the films which we'll be covering this week, I think the 12A rating, they're really pushing the boundaries of that, of what they can get away with in films now, especially with that rating.
In all honesty, there was, you'll probably laugh at this, but there was one film that pushed the boundaries of the 12 rating before the 12A certificate was brought into it. And I always feel like this film should have been rated a 15, and that was Congo. When Congo was released in the cinema, that was a 12, and that film has got some pretty nasty scenes in it for a 12 certificate. So there are scenes, there are films. Even if you go back to things like Gremlins was a 15 over here, but
yeah, because it was before the
Poltergeist.
It was before the 12. Yeah, it was either it was PG-13 in America, but they didn't have it 12 here for until, what was it, 1991?
I think it was like released on VHS or something like that. So
I actually remember having Gremlins on VHS and it was 15.
Yeah, so it's just there have been films to majorly push the boundaries, and we've seen, you look at the Hunger Games, for example.
Yeah.
The first two Hunger Games films, they're very brutal, and obviously when they were released on DVD, the first one got a 15 certificate, there were extra scenes added to it. But there were 12 here in the cinema, so you're right with the fact that 12 here pushes the boundaries of what can be shown in the cinema these days. Well done for the BBFC as well for not carrying away.
Yeah, I mean the BBFC has kind of come to their senses a bit more recently with films, and they're not basically, because there was times when the BBFC would really just censor the weirdest things out of films, and that would make no sense whatsoever. And I mean, look at, as not a great example of a great film anyway, but the original Judge Dredd, which was absolutely cut to ribbons because of the fact that it was pushing things too much, and then they released it and it was terrible anyway. But things like that would have been released uncut pretty much now, because of the fact of that they let away a lot of action and things in comic book films because of the fact it's comic book violence, they class it as, but still, quite a bit of excessive violence in some of them and excessive sort of terror in some of them.
Yeah, I would have guaranteed that Dredd, the one with Carl Urban, and it would have been rated X.
It would have had stuff cut from it, certainly. That if it had been,
they would have rated that an X.
If it had been 10 years earlier, they would have edited it in some form.
There are films which you question the rating certificate. So yeah, South Park Bigger Longer Uncut would have definitely been in 18. The amount of swearing that is, but there's no 18 version of the film, and it was released uncut, surprisingly.
Yeah.
And would you believe it? Mexico was the first city to get Batman vs Superman. They got the premiere on the 19th. Lucky them.
19th. Wow.
Yeah,
that's okay.
The last country to get it officially released in cinemas is Poland. It's not released in Poland until April 1st, so they don't have to wait until April Fool's Day before they get Batman vs Superman.
Ouch.
I know. Who are Polish people? News I've got, it's been confirmed that Frozen 2 will go into production later this month.
I don't mind. I'm just not. We were talking about another one of these that before we started the show, and it's the thing of it being a non-original title.
I mean, you can mention the name, it's Zootopia.
Yeah.
It's fine. There's previews been out for it, so it's not the fact that we've seen it without people knowing about the film. So
no.
Yeah, we're reviewing Zootopia on next week's show, and that's a new Disney IP. And like we said before, before we started the show, it was Disney created. They've actually concentrated a lot more on new IPs over the last few years, Frozen being one of them. So it was inevitable that they were going to make a sequel to Frozen because how stupidly big Frozen was.
Yeah.
And so it's now it goes into production this month. So we're definitely not going to see it for at least another couple of years. So because they will step up the animation and add more to it. So it's not going to be until at least 2018 before we even see the film. So there's a we're off still.
I just hope it manages to still have the magic of the first one and doesn't do what seems to be the trend with Disney sequels and just be, well, for lack of a better word, boring.
Well, we'll see what happens with it. A fifth Indiana Jones movie has been confirmed. With David Coep set to write the script. He did Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Yeah. Okay, I actually have to say I did recently finally pick up the Indiana Jones box set on Blu-ray. Haven't even opened it.
At least he wrote Jurassic Park. So he wrote the screenplay for Jurassic Park off the Michael Crichton book. So at least he did that. So. But Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Harrison Ford is set to reprise his role as Indiana Jones.
Is Shia LaBeouf set to return as well?
There is no word if Shia LaBeouf is set to return or not, but come on. Just leave it alone, Harrison. Just stop it. You're too old to play Indiana Jones now. They had to use a lot of CGI on you in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So you can just imagine what they're going to have to do with this. Just stick you in a wheelchair and get you on a whip to whip you across the room in your wheelchair. Stop it.
You're going to lose the geriatric audience here.
Yeah, the Crow reboot has lost another director.
I didn't see this.
Hardy leaving the project, fourth director to leave the project after Stephen Norrington, Juan Carlos Fresnadlo and F. Javier Gutierrez leaving the film.
It's just it is one of these cursed productions that's just never gonna happen.
Yeah, so it's probably if there's like it might sound horrible this, but Brandon Lee is probably just in the background going, if anybody remakes this, I will haunt you for the rest of your life, kind of thing. I will find you and I will kill you, doing his best Taken impression. Just leave it alone. There's your hint. Just don't make one. The list of actors to play young Han Solo movie. I'll start that again. The list of actors to play a young Han Solo in a spin-off movie has been narrowed down to 4. Jack Rayner, who was in the last Transformers movie, Age of Extinction. Taron Egerton, who we see in pretty much absolutely everything at the moment. Adrian Ehrenreich. Is it Ehrenreich?
Ehrenreich.
Who was in Hail Caesar. And
Aaron Ecken, is it not Aaron Eckenwright? Eckenwright? I don't know.
I'm just gonna go Aaron Reich, and
I think I need a drink to pronounce a name.
And Emery Cohen, who was in Brooklyn. They're the 4 people who it's been narrowed down to now. I know which one I would choose out of that lot.
Okay, hit me with it.
Emery Cohen. You probably thought I was going to go with Taron Egerton.
I'm not. I don't know that he'd be. I mean, because he's good in everything you've seen him in, and he's very versatile. But I just don't see him as being a young Harrison Ford type.
Whereas I do with Emery Cohen. If you look at him, he's got that young Harrison Ford kind of look to him. So I think I think he would play a young Han Solo very well. So my choice would be him.
Okay.
The Ehrenreich guy, no, because then we would have to pronounce his name multiple times, and we can't do that. Few more pieces of news. Netflix has splashed out a huge $90 million on Will Smith's next project, fantasy cop thriller Bright, which sees orcs and fairies living together. Joel Edgerton will also star, while the film will be directed by David Ayer.
Well, presumably this is going to be a cinematic release and not a Netflix release then.
Well, they've spent $90 million on the thing, so I don't know. I just don't know whether it will be a theatrical release or whether it will be a Netflix exclusive. I just don't know.
It could be worse. It could be an Adam Sandler film.
Yeah, I think they'll probably cancel his contract. But, however, the Hateful Eight or whatever it was called, it did brilliantly for Netflix.
Oh yeah. Not Hateful Eight.
Ridiculous
Six. Yeah.
Yeah, it did brilliantly for Netflix.
I have to say, I kind of enjoyed it.
I despised it. It was horrible. Two more pieces of news. Dylan O'Brien, who plays Thomas in the Maze Runner series, has suffered severe injuries on the set of the new Maze Runner film, The Death Cure. Nice title, that, isn't it? Details were not released on the extent of the accident. However, the movie has been put on hold until he recovers.
I did see something of this. Apparently, he was actually hit and run over by a car. So, I mean, it's...
Well, that's not a cure for death.
No, but as to how badly he's injured, we don't know. But being hit by a car, I mean, he could have been killed on the spot. Fortunately, it sounds like he's gonna make it through, because they've not said anything about him being in a particular bad situation or condition or anything. So it looks as if maybe he's okay. Just, well, obviously wait and see.
Yeah, let's hope he pulls through. And the final piece of news I've got is Joe and Anthony Russo have revealed that they had to ask for a further $20 million for Captain America Civil War so they could include Robert Downey Jr. in the film. $20 million just so they can include him in the movie.
Yeah, but I mean it's the thing of the...
How big is his ego?
Yeah.
To be paid $20 million. Oh, but there you go, that's $20 million. Any bets the rest of the actors on set are looking at it and go, this is really unfair.
Well, I mean, it's the thing that he can, so he's that hot a property for it. I mean, he is Iron Man. There's no way around it. You couldn't really recast the role with another actor, I don't think, and have it be as, first of all, as successful, and secondly, be properly sort of what he has established it as now, because everyone would just expect it to be Robert Downey Jr.
I know, but still, Marvel has gone and inflated his ego beyond belief by giving him all this money. So now, in every single movie that he's going to star in, he's going to expect that much money.
Well, because this is going to be an excess one, because he's still got on contract for another Avengers film. After that, he'll then no longer be on contract with them, and they can renegotiate new ones with him and stuff, which they'll probably have to pay him a ton then as well, if they do want to do any more. Because I mean, there's the potential for at least one more Iron Man standalone movie with things that happened in the Marvel universe, and there's always more stories that can be made up. And the thing is, Iron Man is a hot box office film that franchise that does perform well and will deliver. So 20 million for that is probably a good bank, because it means if you didn't have Iron Man in this, would it be, do you think, as big as it's going to be? Maybe not.
Yeah, but for 20 million, a lot of film companies can make 5 films for that.
Yeah, true.
Blumhouse Productions, for example, can easily do 6-7 films for 20 million. So it's just ridiculous how much one actor gets paid just to star in a film. They throw the body around a lot, but now he's sort of like easing back a little bit more so, and he's still getting paid 20 million.
It may not have been 20 million just for him, because obviously there's the character and effects that has to be done, because it has, the effects of a suit and stuff. There's if you've ever looked into it and seen it, the actual Iron Man films, there are a lot of effects in there that you do not see. They're things like the suit and such. Obviously, there's parts of the suit. Whenever they're filming with the suit, they've never actually made like the legs of the suit. The legs are completely CGI'd, because the fact is that if they wore them, they would just look incredibly bulky.
He still gets paid way too much. I would love to see these big actors actually get a normal wage. Have to live off a normal wage for 1 month. They would die. They would literally die.
Okay, that's the last piece, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's it for this week's movie news.
More. There is other news floating around there. For example, they're reducing the budget on Ascendant, the final part in the Divergent film, after it underperformed at the US box office. There's that.
We'll get to that in a moment, really.
I could go on and on.
Yeah, okay. Box office top 10, and let's get going though, because we are running quite a bit already. So, box office top 10.
Number 10. New entry at number 10 is for Anomalisa,
which I still haven't seen yet.
Oh. It only was released on like 80 sites, so not bad for a film like released on 80 sites. The thing with Anomalisa is it is a stop motion animation film that's specifically aimed at adults about a character who's very self-destructive, and it's about a character who you'll find it really difficult to latch on because he's so negative. He makes me just look like all candy. And I thought I was a negative person, and he's stupidly negative. It's a very downbeat movie, and it has one of the most uncomfortable sex scenes I've seen in an animated slash stop motion movie. It puts the Team America World Police one to absolute shame. So there are lots of things to like in Anomalisa, but it is a movie that will completely divide people. I'm sort of languishing in between, and it's normally the case with movies that divide people. I'm always sitting on the fence going, you're an idiot and you're an idiot, when I'm looking at both sides. But yeah, there is a lot to like of it, but there is stuff which would actually get on people's nerves. Number 9 is Alvin and the Chipmunks, The Road Chip.
I also haven't seen this. I actually haven't seen anything until we get to number 6 in the top 10. So go through them all.
Yeah, Alvin and the Chipmunks, The Road Chip. I think we've gone over it. It's not as bad as people might make it out to be, but it's still pretty awful. Number 8, How to Be Single. Terrible insipid comedy. Number 7 is A New Entry for the Witch. Very, very creepy movie, but again, it's a movie that will divide people. I had 2 movies last week which will divide people. I'm not sitting on the fence with The Witch because I actually really liked it, but it will just you'll either be really annoyed with it and walk out, or you will just let it just creep the hell out of you. And if you let it do that, then you are watching something special. And so on to films that you have seen. At number 6 is Grimsby.
Yeah, which is a pretty poor tasted humour. It has its moments where it does have some laughs, but not really anything particularly redeeming or entertaining, because it is this typical Sacha Baron Cohen lowest bottom common denominator horror comedy that's just aghast with some scenes. There's some stuff in this that's just genuinely cringeworthy and questionable.
Yeah, or the Brothers Grimsby as it's known as in America. At number 5 is Hail Caesar,
which I really enjoyed. It is Coen Brothers back to kind of the normal form of the weird humour and satire that they do, but they've done it with a bit of a kind of a love for 1950s Hollywood and the styling of that and the way it's done. There's some beautiful scenes in this. It's a brilliantly shot, filmed and choreographed scenes, and a great performance at the centre of this from not only George Clooney but also from I forget his name now, Josh Brolin, thank you, who is the sort of the centerpiece of it. It's a bit of an uneven film because it doesn't really have much of a plot, but what it does have is moments that will make you smile and will make you laugh and make you grin.
And number 4 is Deadpool.
Talking of smiling and grinning and laughing, this one really is the one that if you haven't seen it, you do need to see it with an audience. You do need to see it on a big screen. You do need to see it for just the pure, unadulterated fun and sick humour of it, which is actually, although sick humoured and sick natured, is in a lot better taste than things like Grimsby, and it just will. It is a almost laugh a minute film in the right mood. If you're in the right mood for it, you will be laughing all the way through it.
And number 3 is London Has Fallen,
which is just a pitiful sequel to a decent film. The first one was actually kind of did better than Die Hard in the same year that a Die Hard film was released, and then the second one goes and shows, oh yeah, so that's why Die Hard failed. You can do exactly the same thing, and it's just awful, and there's no point. It's no plot. There's nothing really. It's just Gerard Butler running around shooting at people and screaming at them in a really bad American accent.
Can I say before I get on to the new entry number 2, thank God people didn't go to see 50 Shades of Black. Well done for not putting it in the top 10, because it shows you that we don't need any more.
It didn't even get in the top 15.
It took £82,000 from 117 screens, so Anomalisa did better on 80 screens. So that goes to show you people just don't want that kind of stuff anymore. So number 2 is a new entry for the Divergent series, Allegiant,
which we discussed there briefly in the news. It's disappointing. Its performance in the US box office. I actually think it is better than the second film, Insurgent, which was pretty just dumbed down for action, given that the first film was a really good intellectual story and had drama and character to it. The second one really sort of stripped those away and just made it a big action film. And this one does its best to put some of that back in, not enough to make it great as the first one, but definitely an improvement over the last one.
Have you noticed Lionsgate's had more duds with these kind of films than they've had pluses?
I think the thing is, though, that with them, even when they've had ones that weren't as big successfully as they hoped for, they've never actually, I don't think, lost money on them. The production's always at least made back worldwide what it cost.
I think they should have the indication by not splitting books in half.
Oh yeah.
It just gets on your nerves when they do that, because they always make the first part of the final book such a bore fest.
That said, this one actually, it does feel more like at least more closer to being a complete standalone film than being a setup for the next one.
Yeah, but the worst thing about doing like that is it puts you off from going to see the second part. Even though you've seen the first part, you're going, I'm going to have to see the second part. You should never say I'm going to have to. You should say I want to go and see it. And the number one is a new entry for Kung Fu Panda 3,
which I, as a fan of the Kung Fu Panda films, absolutely loved. It's just more the same, but it's brilliant. It's humorous, it's witty, the animation is gorgeous, and I just loved it from start to finish. It was great to see it all back again.
Yeah, I didn't love it. There are problems with the film itself. The storyline's very basic and very simple, and so it drags itself down there. The animation is gorgeous at times. There are some beautiful set pieces in the movie itself. The comedy doesn't hit as much as it did in the first and second one. It's a series that is actually plodding along and starting to run out of steam, and if they drag it down a little bit too much, it'll end up like the Ice Age series, which you don't want that to happen, because there is going to be a 5th Ice Age movie. So we don't want that to happen. When you start to enjoy a series, you don't want it to start dragging down. I really hope they don't do that with How to Train Your Dragon, because there will eventually be a third one, but the second one was absolutely spellbinding. That you don't feel like you need a third one. It's pretty much the same with this one. It's not so that I'm saying that the film is bad, because it's not. There is a lot to admire about the film itself. But did we need a third one? Companies look at it again, yes, because the second one made a lot of money and this one will. So that they only did it for money.
Yeah, true, but I still enjoyed it, and I'm glad it came around because I had fun with it, and I was glad to see, more of Poe in action.
All I'll say is it's nowhere near as bad as the animated film that I'm reviewing on tonight's show.
Okay, moving on then to our first film, which is it's very loosely connected, I suppose you could say, to the previous movie with a similar name, 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Be careful where you tread.
Yes, I will do, yes, thank you. It's directed by Dan Trachtenberg. It is a sort of without spoiling anything, a thriller come other genres. Stars Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Michelle, a woman who at the start of the movie is she packs up all of her stuff in her apartment, has left things behind, including a wedding ring, and has driven off somewhere where she has an accident. She wakes up in a bunker with her leg in a sort of a splint and handcuffed to a rail, trying to figure out what's going on, and she sort of is greeted by Howard, played by John Goodman, who tells her that there has been an attack of sorts, and that she, and as well as him and another character, Emmett, played by John Gallagher Jr., have sort of survived it by going into Howard's bunker that he has, and that there is sort of this thing still going on. They don't know exactly what, but I've got to play a clip, which it's not easy to get a clip for this film because there aren't great ones out there, but there's one where at one point Michelle does manage to get hold of the keys and manage to make her way to the door at the surface. Here's a clip.
Give me those keys! No! Don't open that door!
There's a woman.
She's in the door. Help her! No one can!
Open the door! She's begging me.
Do not let her in!
Let me in!
And you can hear in that clip, because there weren't many available, but that one, lots of banging, lots of thuds, and all the sort of the tension and the terror in it. And it's actually quite an apt clip to play for someone if you've not heard of it or seen anything, because it is a film that is actually quite tense at parts, and this was the thing I was talking about with earlier on with ratings in films, because this is a 12A movie, and I think it actually really pushes the boundaries of that, because there are moments in it where it does build the tension really well, because it's shot with certain takes that are shot in a certain way and longer takes that build the tension. It's actually, I think, really well handled for that, because it has this kind of closed in feeling, the pressure of that. You have the scenes where the three of them sort of sitting eating dinner, and there's questions over who sort of can be trusted at the dinner table, sort of thing. And it's got these moments that it genuinely does know how to build the tension very successfully. The one thing I would say, and this is not to get into spoilerish territory, but as it went on, especially towards the end, I found myself really kind of feeling a bit kind of underwhelmed with how things developed and what happened. I really wish it had been either gone a different direction or something else happened, but I found that a bit sort of let me down a little bit. The rest of the film, though, absolutely, I've got to admit, I really was not expecting to enjoy this. I don't really like this kind of film that often, because I don't really like sort of horror, terror, tension things that much. But I did get into this. I really enjoyed it, and part of that, I've got to say, is the sound design on the film. The sound design is absolutely phenomenal. The mix of the sound and the bangs and the sound of the shelter and the things that are the rumblings that are happening and all that sort of stuff, and every little thing, it really does make that tension. It makes or breaks that tension factor, and it really does sort of put that into you.
Yeah, firstly, I want to point people away from the poster, because the poster has got a huge spoiler on it. So you just don't look at the poster. It's a really badly created poster. There is another poster out there, but the main poster for 10 Cloverfield Lane, just don't look at it, because it is a stupidly spoiler one. The alternate poster is a much better one. I get where people are coming from with the last 15-20 minutes of the film. I actually think it fit, but I'm not going to go any further than that. I'll just say that I think it did fit, because I was piecing, just like the jigsaw puzzle, where they're piecing together inside the bunker itself when it's missing a few pieces, and they're looking at it going, catfish in a bowl. I thought that was a humorous little touch in that as well, in the film. But when it was missing a few little pieces, it's sort of like indicative of the way the last 15 minutes is. The last 15 minutes is missing a couple of little pieces to make you twig on how it actually could evolve from there. And so I actually quite liked the last 15 minutes. I loved what was before it. It is a stupidly tense film. John Goodman is fantastic in the movie. He flips. He's always constantly on a knife edge. There's a scene which involves him with Mary Elizabeth Winstead when she's just at the dinner table and she touches the hands of the other guy who's inside the bunker, and he twigs on what might be happening, and he pretty much threatens her. That's the first sign that you see that he's not somebody who you need to sort of like be nasty with or do something horrible to, because he will actually harm you in a horrible way, and he just flips instantly. And then once she apologizes, he changes his mannerisms. So he's got that sort of like, it's like he's been down in that bunker longer than he states he has been. And it adds to the film itself. I love the way the film looks. It's hard to actually get tension in a film when you confined into that small spaces there. You need to make sure that you shoot the film properly, and it's shot really well. But it's the acting that stands head and shoulders above pretty much anything else in the film, because each one of the actors brings something to the table and sort of like embodies their character with turmoil and tension, and you just don't know what to expect. I hope Dan Trachtenberg goes on to much bigger things. He did he actually caught the eye of J.J. Abrams because he did a short film based on the Portal video games, and that's where J.J. Abrams saw him, and that shot was just very inventive, very fascinating, very intelligently done. He seems to be a very intelligently creative director. The scene where Mary Elizabeth Winstead, she has to crawl through a vent to switch back on the oxygen system, and that's a stupidly tense scene. Also, I want him to do like an alien movie or a horror film where it involves very closed-in spaces, because he would just make you just rip the arms off the cinema seats that you're sitting beside, because you're just so on edge, or you fall off constantly. So all you'll hear in the cinema is booms, lots of bangs, not from the scares, just from people falling off the seats all the time. So yeah, I really liked it. I really did like 10 Cloverfield Lane, but stay away from spoilers. And it's surprisingly, I thought there would have been many more spoilers on places like Twitter and Facebook than there were.
It seems that, yeah.
The film itself was released in America a week before we got it over here, and I didn't see very little. I saw very little spoilers, which is a good thing. So well done for people to actually keeping their mouth shut.
It seems to be earning the respect of people that they don't want to be spoiling it. They want. I saw in the last 2 days, people in the UK posted things. A couple of people that posted things saying, "Go and see it because it's worth seeing. It really is worth seeing it." And they didn't want to spoil it any more than that.
Yeah, which is a good thing, but stay away from the poster. You don't want to see that poster. That poster is just a bad poster, naughty poster. The Boy, then, it's a horror film directed by William Brent Bell. Now that director will not, you will not notice that director, but he did do The Devil Inside, which I know you've not seen, but I absolutely despise that movie, and I forced it into a top 10 worst films in 2013, I think it is, 2013, 2014. Our list then, and he also, I don't know if you've seen it, but you might have heard of it, a film called Stay Alive.
Rings a bell.
That's the Frankie Muniz who was in Malcolm in the Middle. That was the video game one, where these kids get sucked into a video game. And if they die in the game, they die in real life.
It does ring bells, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, well, he directed both of those films, so he hasn't got a good track record. And so what he's done with The Boy is it stars Lauren Cohn, who plays Greta, and she's in a bit of a bad relationship, and so the only thing that she can think of getting away from her boyfriend is to take up a babysitting job. And so she sees this job advertised, and she goes to get interviewed for the job. She thinks that it's actually for a child, who's their mother and father, played by James Russell and Diana Hardcastle. However, when she gets there, she sees it's not a child, it's in fact a doll, a small little sort of like porcelain doll in a way, that it looks like this couple of sort of like thinks their son is a doll, and so she laughs and jokes about it. However, this couple are very serious about it, and they're going away on a trip, and they want her to look after the kid. Here's a clip.
Malcolm will be by once a week with groceries and of course your payment, and I'm sure that he can answer any other questions that you might have. I'm sorry, I'm a bit off today. It's so long since we've gone anywhere. Be good to him and he'll be good to you. Be bad to him.
Oh, she will be good to him, won't you, Miss Evans?
Yes, I'll treat him like my own.
I'm so sorry.
Come along, my dear. It's time we left.
So that clip gives you a clue. There is a hint in that clip of what to expect, and it's not very good, unfortunately. I think the director, what he's seen is he thinks that because of movies like Annabelle and Chucky and stuff like that, dolls can be malevolent, and they can be. Annabelle, she was malevolent in The Conjuring. She was about as malevolent as a wet piece of carrot in our own film. It was a terrible movie, and unfortunately they're making a sequel to it. I don't know how you can make a sequel to Annabelle, but evidently they've found a way. And so they're making a sequel to that. And so William Bell thought that embodying something with the doll, and malevolence with the doll, or sort of like a spiritual aspect with the doll, it could create an interesting film, and it can create an interesting film. However, he decides to throw that completely away when you sort of like pretty much make your mind up about what's happening in the film in the first 10 minutes. As soon as she actually comes across the doll for the first time, you expect something else is afoot, or something could be different about what she's actually seen here, and evidently you can piece it together. It's like if you sort of like drive down a motorway in the dark and then all of a sudden you just see a flash of headlights in your face. That's exactly what it is. It's just you expect everything you expect to happen happens in the film. So it's stupidly predictable, and that takes away from any tension. There is no tension in the movie whatsoever, despite there being the very typical quiet bang scenes, the loud melodic kind of music sort of like building up to something that might happen. You can signpost absolutely everything in the movie. The acting is tolerable, it's fine, it's nothing special, but it's nothing bad. Each one of the actors, Lauren Cohen and Rupert Evans, who's in the movie predominantly in most of the film, they try their best with the character that they're given, but it's just the story, the script, pretty much the way it's shot as well. The director thought, we'll keep it confined mostly to this one house, but this one house isn't a very interesting place to be. There isn't any like proper dark, malevolent corners or areas where the actress sort of like you think she might go down to the basement or up into an attic when in fact she never treads into those kind of areas there. And so it's a very mundane, boring, very typical throw it into the cinema, let's hope to get around about £500,000 at the UK box office. If you've done that, then we can slightly pat ourselves on the back kind of film. It's completely forgettable.
Okay, on to High Rise, which is directed by Ben Wheatley. It's based on the novel by J.G. Ballard, and it centres around the residents of a new tower block, which is it's never sort of established as what year it is, but from the look of everyone, the dress of everyone, and things like the clothing and vehicles and stuff like that, looks to be sort of around the 70s period. You have in there, newly moved into the building is Dr. Lang, played by Tom Hiddleston, who we sort of meet in a sequence which shows that not all is kind of well, everything's kind of chaotic a bit, and things in the tower are not what sort of normally would see as we're introduced to him. And then we see 3 weeks earlier what actually happened, sort of the start of him arriving there, and the tower itself as a sort of a new look, everything sort of fresh and clean and all this. He's moved in, he meets some of the residents, including the single woman that lives above him, played by Sienna Miller. You have the man who lives in one of the lower levels of the building, played by Luke Evans, who lives there with his wife and his couple of children he's got there. And he also meets the architect of the buildings, Anthony Royal, played by Jeremy Irons. Here's a clip.
Dr. Lang, I hear you play squash.
Yes, I do. You built all this.
Dreamt, conceived. I hardly roll my sleeves up. Of course, project's far from finished. Over 5 towers in all, circling the lake. Something like an open hand. The lake is the palm, and we stand on the distal phalanx of the index finger. There. I put all my energies into this tower. I'm its midwife, so to speak.
It looks like the unconscious diagram of some kind of psychic event.
Well, that's good. I'll use that.
By all means.
So what you have with this film is that in the actual tower you have the people who live there, and it starts to show that there are rivalries between the lower people, the people in the lower levels, and the people in the upper levels. And Tom Hiddleston's character is kind of in the middle of these, but he himself also starts to be affected by this, and there's weird things in it, like the whole building essentially is one of these things where you have the supermarket is on one level, lower down you have courts for playing squash and tennis on other levels. You have in the penthouse there's a big outdoor area with things like a horse in there and fields and stuff that are there for big enough area that you have wildlife and everything up there as if it is outside, not on top of a building. You have this weirdness thing, but you have this thing of that there is this divide between the two, and that there is this kind of weird struggle, and the building starts to be kind of sort of infected by it and become sort of a mess and all waste and rubbish down at the bottom, and it's all this something. It's all about the whole upper class, lower class, middle class sort of thing. which is fair enough, and it does a good job of setting that up in the first hour, and maybe a little bit over that. But it's a 2-hour film. The problem is, once it gets to that point, it just completely loses it. It goes everywhere, all over the shop. It doesn't seem to reel it in. You have Luke Evans' character actually starts to become a lot more interesting to watch than Tom Hiddleston's character, because he is one of the kind of the anarchists that is kind of trying to shake things up and try and make things equal for everyone. You have a weird performance from James Purefoy, who's in there as one of the high up socialist sort of people in a party. They're all sort of there, and it ends up sort of at one point with him having a party that ends up almost turning into a scene out of Caligula. I'm not kidding here. And you have just this weirdness of it that it goes all over the place, and it's almost as if it gets to a certain point, and then as if Ben Wheatley just didn't know what to do, and just went, okay, we've set up all this, let the cameras just run for the last half hour and just let it all descend into chaos, and have no real development of story, no real point of where it's going, no real end to where it goes. And I really, in that last hour, last 45 minutes to hour, I honestly just started to give up on the film. I really started to not hate, but it was building sort of that in me, and loathing in it. Not because there are characters in it that are loathing as you go on, but the film, I actually started to loathe the film and the characters, the way it followed them or didn't follow them, and it didn't seem to really care. And it wasn't the fact of that the characters don't care, because some of the characters don't, and that's what matters. But it honestly, you could be watching one scene and it's as if it didn't know what to do to get from one part of the room to another part. So instead of just going from one part to the other part, it would go from one part to another room somewhere with another character. You see them do something weird for about 10 seconds, and then it go back to that room, and you've changed to the other bit. And honestly, it's one of the most muddled messes I think I've ever seen in film. And I watched Southland Tales and I enjoyed it. I got into it. I followed it. It made more sense to me than the last hour of this film. Honestly, I didn't mind the first hour, but it lost me.
Sort of the way Ben Wheatley actually directs his films.
It is, but it needs to have some kind of with his other films. It gets there.
Sort of like had the same kind of reaction with A Field in England.
Yes. Yes.
It's a very, very confusing movie, but I've got a feeling that if I get to see High Rise, it just depends on if my cinema decides to show up, which by the looks of things they're not going to, and I hate my cinema for doing that. So I really wanted to see this film because I'm a big fan of Ben Wheatley. I actually really got into A Field in England. I understood the movie itself. So it is, from what I'm hearing, it's a very divisive film.
Yeah,
It's a film that is dividing a lot of people.
I'll admit that I didn't get A Field in England, but I did get this. But the thing is, I got this, and then it just went, oh, you've got it. Okay, well, just wallow in it for another 40 minutes. That'd be fine. And I honestly sat there and I wanted to go. If I'd been sitting in the editing room with Ben Wheatley, I would have gone, what is that last half hour for? Take it out.
It could be one of those movies where at the end of the year, I should have obviously seen it by the end of the year, that we might end up having
arguing.
A huge, massive argument over it, because you'll want it in the bottom 10 movies of the year, but I might want it in the top 10 films of the year. I've got a feeling that's the way Ben Wheatley directs his movies. He is a director who creates his films to be like that.
Yeah, it just honestly, I mean, I don't even know as well all the cast that are in it. And as I said, and the things, I'm not a massive fan of Luke Evans. I don't think he's a particularly great actor in a lot of his films. I thought he was brilliant in this. I thought the performances were brilliant in this for the most of the part of where the actors knew what they were doing. I actually don't think towards the end the actors knew what they were doing. They were in there and they kind of like, okay, I signed up for this bit. I would be surprised to hear that any of them signed up to the film having read the whole script, because of being Ben Wheatley and the first part of the script. They probably read, the first half of it, even if they read through that part of it, and then went, you know what, this is really good, and signed up to it. And that's then, I guarantee that last half hour, that last quarter of the film especially, I just was kind of like, what?
Oh well, and on to the animated release of the week. Now, you'll have seen South Park.
Yes.
And South Park loves to take the mickey out of actors and stuff, don't
Yep.
especially people like Adam Sandler, and definitely especially with Rob Schneider. And they've done the parody. Rob Schneider is a stapler, and then the derpy derp. This would have been perfect cannon fodder for Matt Stone and Trey Parker for South Park.
I have no idea what this is. What are you talking about?
It's Norm of the North.
Okay, you hadn't said what it was. Okay.
I was getting to that.
Right.
So yeah, thanks for spoiling my joke in a way. Kid. But I was actually getting to that. But yeah, it's Norm of the North. It's an animated film. But I'm just gonna have to do a normal review now. But it's Rob Schneider does the voice of Norm, a polar bear who lives in the North Pole with his family, a special polar bear who can speak. He gets spotted one day by this group of people. Yeah, yay, polar bear who can speak. And then all of a sudden, Norm, don't know how he finds this out, but he finds out that this guy in America, he wants to create these houses in the north. So it's up to Norm to travel to America to try and stop this guy. Here's a boring clip.
I can tell you're really excited by this.
Thank you all for coming. Okay, we're looking for real. Let me have it. Okay, I'm not quite getting King of the Arctic. It's more like Queen of the Prom.
Bear.
I need real. I need something. You, come with me.
Only if I can bring my lemmings. We're with the same agency.
Cute and very marketable. Bring 'em.
There are indestructible lemmings in the film.
That really makes sense, because that's how lemmings have survived walking off cliffs and such. Oh no, wait, hang on a second.
No, that was Disney. Disney was the one who perpetrated that myth. Lemmings do not commit suicide.
No.
Lemmings don't walk off cliffs or anything like that, so that's Disney's fault.
Disney lied?
Yes, Disney lied. But Norm of the North is horrendous. It is really horrendous. It's sort of like reminiscent of when you watch these, like when multiple companies and countries come together to try and create an animated film. That's not the case with Norm of the North. It's just one company, and they've looked at every other film that was released over the last 10 years and thought, yeah, well, the Minions did brilliantly in the Despicable Me series. Let's take some kind of thing from there and we'll have Indestructible Lemmings. Let's have bits from the Madagascar series, because the Penguins got their own spin-off, so why don't we have a polar bear who can talk and twerk? Yes, he twerks. There is a twerking polar bear. He dances, he sings, he bores the hell out of everything. Jokes are so flat, it's awful. Whoever thought it was a brilliant idea to get Rob Schneider to do the voice of a polar bear is just, it's beyond me. Heather Graham, you heard in the clip there, who does the voice of the mother. It's just head scratchingly awful. It is really, and when I went to see this at the cinema, there was just kids going, "Daddy, why do you hate me so much?" That's how you feel. You just want to smack your head off the railing in front of you or something, because it's just an awful pandering mess of a movie. It's really bad.
Okay, last cinema release this week is Rock the Kasbah, which is it's got a small release, but it's showing widespread across the UK. It is a sort of light comedy drama following a character played by Bill Murray, who is this kind of a bit of a sort of a shyster music agent, who, you know, he's one of these ones that you get people come in at the start of the movie. He has a woman singing for him in his office, and he's like, you know, he does the spiel about you know, what goes into a pearl, what goes into an oyster to create a pearl is a sand, you know, a grain of sand, and you are that grain of sand kind of thing, and stuff like that. And it's got that sort of thing about his character, who ends up going over as part of like one of these USO shows things, taking over one of his girls that he's got on sort of retainer with him to go and sing for the troops. When he's there, he ends up being separated from her, losing his passport, being trapped there, and ends up finding himself in Afghanistan, trapped, where he ends up finding this girl who sings, even though in Afghanistan girls are not allowed to sing, they're not allowed to do things like that, so that she can then try and go on to essentially the Afghanistan version of something like Pop Idol, where only men are allowed to go on and sing, women are not allowed to sing, and he decides that he's going to go off and help her and get her into show business basically. It is a very, very odd film. It's directed by Barry Levinson, who I do really love, but I gotta admit, this just completely lost me. It was really weird, all over the place. I was watching it at points and thinking Bill Murray is definitely better than this. Bruce Willis pops up as a small in a small role occasionally as a contractor out there that's protecting people. Kate Hudson turns up as I don't know what really, but ends up being sort of the female friend role, to Bill Murray's character. And it's honestly, it's a film that fizzles out before it even starts. I don't know how Barry Levinson has allowed something like this to happen. It's a fall from grace for him, because I love him as a director, but just not this. I don't even have a clip for it. It's that poor.
Can't be as bad as Norm of the North.
I wonder. Okay, that's it for this part of the show. We're going to be back in just a moment. We'll have a quick an ad here for the movie show, and we're back afterwards with this week's DVD and Blu-rays.
The From Page to Screen movie. So they have 9 times out of 10 they have to send it back to you unopened or just throw it in the garbage can.
Things don't always look exactly as we envision our life to look, but sometimes it works out and turns out even better.
Gregor Fisher, his bacon number is 2 because he was appeared with January Jones in Love Actually, and January Jones and Kevin Bacon appeared in X-Men First Class together.
I've got to say, the very Harold and Kumar 3D Christmas, now that just makes me want to rush out.
It's about the acting and about the writing. That's really what theatre is for me.
Probably had more names than Prince or whatever. Never mind, there's a joke for the oldies. It'd be like, who's Prince? Who's he? I'd just like to see Mr. Freeze hiring his bad guys, going, right, okay, so you're a psycho, right, can you ice skate? Head over to iTunes, Spreaker and Stitcher and put in the search box From Page to Screen.
Welcome back to this week's Monday Movie Show, where we're into the Blu-ray and DVD section, where we're looking at these films.
You have Katniss Everdeen back in the final part of The Hunger Games in Mockingjay Part 2. We have Disney and Pixar back with The Good Dinosaur. We have awards-nominated drama with Carol. We have a sort of a thriller based on true events of Black Mass. Horror with The Hallow. And drama of sort of true sense of sorts with Steve Jobs.
Yeah, on top of that, TV Movie of the Week and Movie of the Week, but it's Blu-ray and DVD Top 10.
Yeah, starting at number 10 with The Dressmaker.
Yeah, it surprised us because it was one of those films that came out of nowhere. Never expected very much of it. I was the first one to see it because you managed to see it on its last day of its run.
Yeah.
And I saw it to review for the show itself, and I loved the film because I think the screening that I had was just perfect. There was about 15-20 people in it, and every single person went to this film to see it, rather than just going there because it was a film on the cinema. Like, for example, I'm not looking forward to going and seeing the new Batman vs Superman film because I know that there's going to be a lot of talking and rustling and all that kind of stuff. It's not what I want to go and what I want to hear when I go to see a film at the cinema. Something like this, The Dressmaker, makes you more involved with the film itself, makes you engrossed in the film, and yeah, it's just an indie movie that crept out of nowhere and just.
It was one of my favourites of last year.
Massive kiss on the cheek.
It was one of my favourites of last year. I think you quite enjoyed it. It's one of your favourites of last year as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Number 9, new entry for Extraction.
Haven't seen it. You reviewed it last week.
Yeah, you don't really want to see it. All you need to know is Kellen Lutz in a film with Bruce Willis in it. It's straight to video garbage, really. It
How
really
did
is.
they manage to get to number 9 then?
Yeah, that's what I'm surprised. I can't believe it actually managed to make it in there. I actually really embarrassed for the dressmaker that it was beaten by this. Number 8, new entry for Monster High, Great Scary Reef. We'll skip over that.
Yeah, that beat the dressmaker.
Yeah.
Buy it at Tesco's for £5.
Yeah,
The shops
that's
will probably
at least
stock as well.
at least that had a gimmick for why it's sold. I mean, I guess Extraction has Bruce Willis on the cover. That's it. You know, Bruce Willis outsells the dressmaker.
Dressmaker will probably been a tenner. The Extraction will probably been like £6 or something.
They should have got him for like a cameo in Dressmaker.
No.
Yeah. Inside Out's at number 7.
Yeah, it's part of Disney's buy one get one free. It's a brilliant film.
Okay. The Martian is at number 6.
Yeah, Matt Damon won the Empire's Best Actor award at the Empire Movie Awards last night, beating out Leonardo DiCaprio from The Revenant. So surprisingly, Matt Damon won it for The Martian. So well done to him. That he deserves. At least he's actually gotten some praise from somewhere. That's the way Empire looks at it. I think they concentrate on more sort of like the popcorn kind of films when they award them, rather because Star Wars The Force Awakens is the one who won the most awards, but they look at those kind of movies in the centre around the blockbuster kind of films rather than
the geek
indie
vote
kind of movies.
The geek vote, yeah.
Well done for them to actually do that. At least there's a place for them for that, and he definitely deserves the recognition for the film.
Number 5 is a new entry for Dragon Blade.
Not seen it.
Yeah, it's a Chinese production, one that was actually released in IMAX in China, which is based on a sort of a legend about a sort of small city which is sort of ended up being sort of made up of the Chinese people there and also a contingent of Romans, and it's not a terrible film, but it's just very weak and weird in moments, and very much from the casting of things like John Cusack in it and Adrian Brody as Romans. If you can believe that, then you can maybe enjoy it. If not, then maybe give it a miss.
I believe that Adrian Brody had an Australian accent in Backtrack last week, so I think I can pretty much believe Adrian Brody in pretty much anything. I would be surprised if he did a voice for the Moomins in the Moomins on the Riviera movie.
He doesn't really do like a Roman, like a dominant, ominous, that ominous accent, that kind of that language speak. He doesn't really do that in it.
He doesn't even do an Australian accent. It sounded like he was doing an Australian / German / Welsh / Scottish / American / English accent in Backtrack. That's the reason why it didn't even make a sniff in the top 40. So.
The Last Witch Hunter is at number 4.
Yeah, you liked it much more than I did. It's a throwaway popcorn kind of film, a movie that you don't mind seeing if it's on a Netflix streaming service and you've got nothing else to watch. It will pass 90 minutes away fine, but it's nothing special.
Spectre is at number 3, which I think we've said everything we could about that. Lady in the Van is at number 2.
I think I liked this more than you did.
Yeah.
I even though it grated on me for the first 20-25 minutes because you try to get used to the sort of like the split personality aspect of the film itself, but when you've got Dame Maggie Smith on brilliant form that she is, it sort of like distracts away from the misgivings of the film itself. I still really enjoyed it. If you took out sort of like the first 20 minutes and just centered around on Maggie Smith's character, it would have been a brilliant movie. Just actually put Maggie Smith in just a film on her own and it would be a brilliant movie, because I would definitely watch it apart from Downton Abbey. So that would just blow the pants off me. But yeah, I actually quite like The Lady in the Van.
And the number 1 title is Game of Thrones complete 5th season. So
stop watching Game of Thrones 2 episodes into season 3.
Yeah, though you should go back and watch the most recent season because it is a very good season. And
I just can't be bothered with. There's like people saying, "Oh, watch The Walking Dead," or I haven't even seen the first episode of Daredevil season 2. I haven't even actually watched past the first episode of Daredevil season 1.
Oh, you need to get caught up in that then.
And did you hear that they're making a spin-off to the spin-off of The Walking Dead? So the spin-off is like The Return of the Walking Dead, or The Return of the Evil Dead to the Walking Dead, or something like that, whatever it's called. They're making a spin-off to that, and it's going to be centered somewhere in between season 3 of the spin-off of The Walking Dead.
I don't care.
Hunger Games time, then. It's the final entry into the Hunger Games series. Directed by Francis Lawrence. It sees the return of Jennifer Lawrence. I wonder if they're related. I only just noticed that. Frances Lawrence is the director, and Jennifer Lawrence is... Yeah. She plays Katniss Everdeen. She's played Katniss Everdeen throughout the films, and we've seen sort of like the turmoil that's been happening with the capital and the districts, the sort of like the political element to it. All the rest of the districts, especially District 13, where Sholto Copley doesn't appear in this movie, but District 13 has got the help of Katniss Everdeen, whereas the capital, who's headed up by President Snow, who's played by Donald Sutherland, is sort of like using Peter, played by Josh Hutcherson, as sort of like their poster boy, and it's sort of like a warring factions in a way. President Snow is seeing that all this rebellion is a bad thing, you should listen to the capital, whereas the rebellion is going, you know what, yeah, that we've had enough of the capital and all of the things, that the oppression that they bring upon us. We want to be free, we want no rules anymore, we want to be able to live a normal life. So using the political standpoint, using Katniss Everdeen as their sort of like Mockingjay character, it's up to them to bring a team together to try and storm the capital, trying to bring down President Snow and end all this tyranny. Here's a clip.
You saw Peter, didn't you? Did you tell him hi for me? We're old friends, you know. We had adjoining cells in the capital. We're very familiar with each other's screams.
I'm going to kill Snow. Nothing good is safe while he's alive. And I can't make another speech about it.
Now you're talking.
I wish I actually sort of like watched her film back and then said, I don't want to do another speech about it, because evidently she does many more speeches after seeing that line. And it's sort of like, it grates on you a bit, because you've seen pretty much exactly the same speech done over and over and over again in the previous film, and then bleeds into this movie, that I'm surprised she's got anything else left to see it. Because she takes the exact same lining that she has to read and sort of like just reinterpretates it each time. This film, though, it sort of like brings the action back of the first two Hunger Games films, because Mockingjay Part 1 was more about the political side of things, sort of like setting it up. Because you when you watch that back, then when you watch it for the first time, you realise this is just padding. Why did they split up the last book when, in fact, what they've created here is just nothing much? There isn't any body to it. However, if you watch it back a second time, you realise why the director did it. Because it sort of like adds something to the film itself. And it makes it much more of an interesting film compared to Mockingjay Part 2. Because Mockingjay Part 2 tries to have its cake and eat it too. It has multiple different layers of it, because it tries to bring in every single element that it's built up and mixes it all together in this movie. And sometimes it works, but sometimes it fails, because it's just trying to go back on itself. And so some of the action set pieces, even though some of them are quite creative, just feel like they're in there because they realised they forgot them in the first part. And then some of the political elements, you think to yourself, I've heard this before, so why am I hearing it again? Also, the director hasn't a clue how to end the film. He must have had like 6, 7, 8 different endings to the movie, and he thought, you know what, I can't decide, let's just throw it all in. So when you think that the film itself has ended and you're just about to put your coat on and step up from your seat, you get another 5 minutes, and then you get another 5 minutes, and then the usher has to actually walk in and tell you, by the way, that's the film ending. Because even when you see the credits come up, you think to yourself, they're going to do a Marvel here and there's going to be an end of credit sequence, isn't it? And so, yeah, when the credits do rise, that's when you can actually get up off your seat and switch off your player, because that's when the film is finished. I'm not saying Mockingjay Part 2 is a bad film, because it's not. There is a lot to admire about the film. There's a lot to admire about the series. But it is a film that's sort of like the last two movies is indicative about the way these kind of films have gone. When studios look at a series of like 3 books and think the best thing for them to do is to split the third book into 2 films, when in fact it's not a good idea, especially if the third book doesn't have a lot in it. Peter Jackson, pay close attention, because you split one book into 3 films. You made the ultimate boo-boo there. But yeah, it's a good film, but it's not the brilliant series that it actually made itself out to be from the start.
Okay, The Good Dinosaur, which is the Pixar animation movie with dinosaurs. believe it or not. Yeah.
Those with giraffes. By the way, there is a scene in Norm of the North with giraffes in it. I just thought I would bring that to the front. Not as funny as the one in Zootopia.
Yeah.
Next week.
Okay, it's directed by Peter Son. It is a kind of an alternate version of world where things happened and the meteorite didn't hit the Earth and didn't kill out all the dinosaurs, didn't wipe them out, which is played out in a brilliant sort of opening gag shot, which actually gets a good laugh. You have then millions of years later this family of dinosaurs who are sort of, they're farming their field. They build this kind of like a stockpile of food because they're needing to get ready for winter. Their food is they're finding that their food is being sort of stolen, so the youngest of the family, Arlo, is given the job of watching over this, setting a trap and waiting for the creature which is getting in, sneaking in and stealing their food, so he can basically hit it over her head with a stick and kill it. This happens, the creature is discovered to be a human baby boy. He finds he can't do this and he can't kill it, and ends up having to sort of join his father and chasing after the boy. They end up chasing him along in a river, and the river gets basically a big sudden flash flood which wipes out sort of things and unfortunately kills his father. Not really a spoiler because it's early on in the film. He finds himself sort of trapped out there in sort of the wilderness, not knowing where he is or what he's going to do and how he's going to get home, but does find that the human boy is there and sort of ends up befriending him. Here's a clip.
So, how far did you say that watering hole was?
I got a job for you.
I'm not really good at jobs.
I need you to keep on the dodge and saddle up the loblolly past them hornheads, just hooting and hollering and score off them rustlers. We'll cut dirt and get the bulge on them.
What? He just wants you to get on that rock and scream. But who's out there?
They'll come right at you. You hold your ground. Don't move.
Don't move? What if they have claws and big teeth?
Don't overthink it.
So here's the thing with The Good Dinosaur. I didn't actually get to see this at the cinema. I did want to try it, but I just didn't have time. It didn't work out. So this is me freshly after having seen this, because there was the whole thing of everyone going, oh, there's Inside Out, which is phenomenal, brilliant, amazing, and everything, and then The Good Dinosaur, which was later and just didn't live up to it. And I agree, it doesn't live up to it. It does have astonishingly beautiful sort of visual effects, and the world that's been created looks really gorgeous and beautifully done. The dinosaur animation for me, actually, I found really distracting because it's just blandly done, and it's not as if it's done as bad animation. It's just the choices have been made to give the dinosaurs, the big kind of Disney big eyes thing, and
at least it's not as bad as, remember the TV series from Disney, Dinosaurs?
Yeah.
Not the mama.
Yeah.
At least it's not as bad as that.
But it's just the thing of that. Unfortunately, the characters aren't as interesting. There's this whole thing of that you have this world and the idea of dinosaurs potentially living with humans, but they don't have that. They have dinosaurs living in this world, and humans have basically become pets, and like humans are the wild animal thing in there with the cavemen sort of level of man. It's not modern day man sort of thing. And I think they kind of really missed the ball by not having it be about humans and dinosaurs living together in a normal world sort of thing, and not being the way they've done it. But as it is in this, I mean, it's not bad. It does what it kind of needs to by ticking the boxes in a couple of categories, just barely, but it entertains. Kids will love it. The adults watching it with them will not love it as much as they would have things like Inside Out, for example, and things like the upcoming Zootopia. But I mean, it passes the time amicably and with fun and genuinely visual impressiveness. But other than that, it's just on the story front, on the character front, it is a letdown.
Yeah, it was just unfortunate timing for the film itself, because the film, it is living in the shadows of Inside Out, unfortunately. However, it should have been the other way around, because The Good Dinosaur was scheduled to be released before Inside Out, but it went through a lot of production troubles, and a lot of scenes had to be changed and stuff like that, and you can sort of see it, and it was just really bad timing, because it's not a bad film. There are some nice touching. There are two specific scenes in the film which are absolutely gorgeous. One especially, where both the lead characters are explaining about their families to each other.
Yeah.
And it's a really touching scene. And you've also got a scene where you see the dinosaur going through the field, where you see these fireflies just fly up from them.
Oh yeah, that's beautiful. That is a beautiful animation sequence.
Imagine seeing that in the cinema then, in 3D, because I saw the film in 3D. In the cinema, and that's gorgeous. That scene was absolutely gorgeous in 3D.
It does have as well some nicely sort of humorous moments, things like the gopher scene when they're blowing these gopher holes in the ground, and the gophers are basically getting blasted out of them. That's just that made me crack up, and I wish there'd been a little more bits of humour like that throughout it. I could have got with it, I think, more than I think I could have got into it more. But it's the fact that it has these moments that are funny like that, and then it just doesn't have anything for a while. Then it has a little funny moment. It's not consistent throughout.
Did I mention there's gophers in Northern of the North?
You're just going to be bringing that up for everything in this film, every film, aren't you? Something.
There are I was going to say leprechauns.
Is there a mob boss in there? Because I've got a mob boss film coming up later.
Yeah, there is a mob boss in North of the North.
Is there a technological
lesbian couple? No.
No. Is there a technological innovator?
Thinks he's a technological innovator, but there aren't any lesbian couples, unfortunately, in North of the North. On the Carol, then, completely different tact here, different change of pace. Drama territory, directed by Todd Haynes. This is the kind of film that he cuts his teeth on. Carol. It stars Cate Blanchett, who plays the lead title in Carol, and Rooney Mara, who the film itself is sort of like more concentrating on her character, for the better, I think, who plays Teresa, and it's set in the 1950s, during sort of like the seasonal period, and it is, like I said, it centres around the character of Teresa Belviet, who's works in a shop. She's a shop girl. She sells all these Christmas presents, toys, train sets, dolls, all that kind of thing. One day a woman walks into the store, played by Cate Blanchett, wanting a Christmas present for her daughter. She actually wants a Betsy Wetsy, I think it's called, the doll. Cries, pees itself. Lovely doll, lovely idea. Instead, Teresa says, why don't you buy her a train set instead? And so it sort of like sparks a friendship in a way, and they do become friends until one night something else sort of like sparks it up, where friendship turns into relationship, and you discover throughout the film that both characters, both Carol and Teresa, have problems in their lives. Carol especially with her husband and her daughter, trying to actually get custody of her daughter, but the husband wants full-on custody of that, whereas Teresa, she's well into her photography, and she's sort of like supposedly in a relationship, but she's in a way not so much, because she's sort of like backing away from this relationship, where the guy who she's with sort of like wants to strengthen the relationship. However, she seems more interested in Carol. Here's a clip.
Anyway, I got my eye on this redhead who owns a steakhouse outside of Paramus.
I'm talking
serious. Rita Hayworth redhead.
Really? You think he got what it takes to handle a redhead?
You going somewhere?
West, I thought. At least for a few weeks until the hearing. What else am I gonna do?
Well, I know you don't like driving alone, so... She's young. Tell me you know what you're doing.
I don't. I never did.
So here's the thing with Carol. It's a very slow-paced kind of film. It's a movie that you're not going to get any gunfights or anything like that, any explosive scenes. You're not going to see John McClane coming crashing through a window trying to disarm a bomb. You're not going to see any lemmings jumping off a cliff or a talking polar bear. I'm starting to get worse with this now than Studio Ghibli. You should be glad I didn't put a reference of a Ghibli film in there somewhere.
I'm going to start thinking you really liked that film. Keep going on about it.
That movie. But I'm just actually putting a point across the fact that there are many more films out there which is miles better than The Horrendous Norm of the North. So it is a drama. It is a drama that's all about relationships, and the fact that how hard it was for same-sex relationships to happen during that period of time. We've seen these kind of films before where they're set in specific eras where it's difficult for like a male-on-male relationship, for example, Brokeback Mountain, or whether it be like female relationships with Carol. And so it's an interesting subject to actually touch upon. I think Brokeback Mountain is a much more stronger film than Carol is. It's sort of like when I was watching this, I was thinking back to that kind of movie, thinking that Ang Lee handled the relationship between the two main characters in that film better than Todd Haynes does in Carol. But that's not to say Carol's a bad film, because it's not. Because the performances by Cate Blanchett and Rooney Mara are just top notch. They are absolutely outstanding. When Cate Blanchett is at the top of her game, she's a hard actress to sort of like beat. Whereas Rooney Mara, she's actually come into this and pretty much actually beaten her at her own game. Her character is much more interesting than Carol's is. And so I found myself more sort of like with her character, the way she actually grows through the film. She goes from a very timid person to the relationship starting to come out of nowhere to her sort of like latching onto it. And so it was a much more interesting from that standpoint of view. Cinematography wise, it's beautiful. It gets the sort of like 1950s down to a T. It has that kind of look. I love the look. There is one specific scene where Carol's in a car and the relationship is sort of like broke down between Carol and Teresa, and she sees this woman in a red coat crossing the road, and she's the only part of the colour that stands out in that scene. Everything else is quite bland, muted colours, browns and greys and all that kind of stuff about people sort of like going across their everyday lives during the seasonal period. And you see this just out of nowhere, just this red sort of like glow of light, and it's a really well created scene. There's no dialogue in it, but it's just the way it's actually shot, and so it shows you that the director has got a good eye, and the cinematographer has got a good eye for the 1950s. There are times when the film itself just languishes a bit too much, and it takes a bit of time for things to actually get going, but overall it's still a very well created, very well acted drama.
Okay, on to Black Mass, which is directed by Scott Cooper, who also directed Crazy Heart, which I haven't actually seen yet, despite owning the DVD, the Blu-ray even. But his last film was Out of the Furnace, which I absolutely loved, and this is his follow-up to that, which is based on the true story of the character, the mob character of Whitey Bulger, who's played in the movie by Johnny Depp, is basically a mob kind of boss who it turns out made a sort of deal with the FBI. The main person at the FBI who kind of makes a deal with him being John Connolly, played by Joel Edgerton. And I'll just play the clip just now, because you have a clip where he approaches Whitey Bulger's brother Billy Bulger, played by Benedict Cumberbatch, about sort of making a deal with him in order to basically make a mutually beneficial sort of gain to both of them. Here's a clip.
How's your brother? How's Jimmy?
Jimmy's Jimmy. You know, why do you ask?
Well, it's no secret this South has been in a war zone lately. Well, it was 60, 70 slayings. But your brother and his Winter Hill boys, they're still out there. They must be doing something right.
Jimmy's business is Jimmy's business. As sure as hell ain't none of mine.
I got an edict to eradicate the mafia. And I know that Jimmy and Stephen Fleming are muscling in on their numbers records and their vending machines. And I know that this ain't sitting very well with Aunt Julo.
Don't want to hear this.
You need to hear this, Billy. Your brother is wading into some very dark waters. We all need friends. Even Jimmy. Even you. Nobody gets out on their own, ain't that right, son?
You know what, John? It's good to see you doing so well. Really it is. Give my regards to the boys at the plaza.
And you hear there in there the thick New York accents that you have with the characters, and that's played through all three of the main characters there. You have in this a good drama with good performances from all the cast. Johnny Depp does give a really good performance, but Johnny Depp's performance is so distracted, not for him but for the audience, by the makeup to make him look like Whitey Bulger. He has this he has this balding effect done to his head, and these in particular these blue contact lenses for his eyes that are really distracting. But it is a film with a good performance. It's just a film that it needed to be reined in a bit. It's 2 hours and it's a bit too long. It is graphic in a couple of moments, and it has some scenes in it which feel as if it has been overly dramatized for the film, because it's a film that there's been a bit of sort of controversy as to how faithful it has been to true events, and characters that were omitted and characters that were changed to be sort of mergers of other characters and such. And I mean, it's fine for that, because it does make it it's an okay, entertaining, and it's a tense film. But at the end of it is kind of an exhausting one, and you come out of it going, you know, did it need to be as long as it was? Because the way, without spoiling anything, the way it ends with a foreword on the screen, and I would have much rather skipped through some of the parts of the film to, instead of having a foreword ending, to actually have had a filmed ending of the events that happened, and not just be told by text on the screen. So I would have liked to kind of follow through and finish off the story that it sets up. It's not that it doesn't finish it off, it's just that it gets to a point you think, well, you know, don't tell me, show me. You're showing a film, you're doing a visual medium, you're not writing a book, which is based on obviously events from a book, but you're not doing the book, you're doing a film. And I would wish it had done the film all the way through.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a slog to get to the end. It's not one of those movies where after you finished watching it, you think to yourself, you know what, I could watch that again.
No.
It's going to take a little while before you go back to it. It is another one of those movies where when you do see it again on the streaming services, or when it's shown on television, you think to yourself, oh, I remember that movie. I'm going to watch it again, and then still get distracted by Johnny Depp's 10 head.
Yeah.
Or the film itself. There's some good acting in there. Joel Edgerton is on decent form.
He actually, I think, is the best one out of it, because just by fact of that he doesn't have any distracting makeup, but he basically has a lot of scenes which aren't with the other actors, and he steals every scene that he's in.
Yeah, but still, some of the scenes that he is in are a bit mundane, to be honest. So it's just it's sort of like explains what the film was actually like. I'll quickly get through the Hallow because we don't have a clip for it, and it's a very sort of like straightforward horror film, the typical kind of folklore Irish horror movie that we've seen before. It's a very simple storyline. It centers around a family who move into the middle of nowhere, into this supposedly abandoned house, and in this forest, just beyond the house, is a sacred kind of thing, where it's something called the Hallow. You disturb the Hallow, it will definitely disturb you, and so it's up to this family to try and survive from this nasty being or beings that is inside this forest. And like I said, it's a very sort of like Irish folklore tale. It's got some decent sort of like tense scenes in the film itself, unlike with The Boy, where it signposts pretty much everything of the film itself. This movie is sort of like takes its time to set up a few scenes, but the payoff seems to be there a little bit. It's a decent watch. It's nothing any different or anything special, but horror has become a bit of a laughing joke as of late. Again, it's a genre that every now and again it gets sort of like the shining light of it. The Witch last week, and there are a few films to come, which I'm hoping A Monster's Call, which is out in October, is a movie that I'm eagerly waiting to see, and hoping that it'll add something a bit different to the horror genre. And there might be films scattered throughout this year which will do that, but it's starting to again become the laughing stock of the movie genres. This will not do anything to help it, but it won't do anything to harm it. It's just sort of like a throwaway kind of movie, but it's a kind of film where you don't mind if you found it quite cheap. and you just want to watch a horror film where it's got a few little decent, creepy kind of scares to it.
Okay, the last film is Steve Jobs, which is the not really biopic drama, but directed by Danny Boyle. It kind of focuses on 3 behind the scenes moments in the life of Steve Jobs when he was doing these big kind of expo launches of products, things like the Apple II, I think it was, not the Apple II, the Apple iMac. Yeah, yes, and things like that, and his Next box and things like that he worked on, and it's all about the drama and the chaos that kind of goes on before that, in the sort of the half hour before leading up to each of these events, and in particular in sort of one of the scenes he says, half an hour before I'm about to go on stage and do all this in front of thousands of people, everyone decides to lose their mind and tell me what they actually think, sort of thing. And he has these moments where people come along. He has a woman who he is sort of supposedly has a daughter with, though he's contested the DNA work of that and kind of made it very much clear that he has no sort of wanting to be the father of this child that he sort of claims he has no claim to. You have the friendship that he has of some sort with Joanna Hoffman, played by Kate Winslet, who's a woman who works with him on different projects and is kind of the closest he has to a confidant. And you have the relationship with him and sort of John Scully, played by Jeff Daniels, who is kind of the higher up at Apple, that is kind of the one that's sort of warring and fighting with him over things. And then also you have in there Steve Wozniak, played by Seth Rogen, who is one of the men who sort of the developers who work on one of the other teams, and is a good friend with Steve Jobs, but has sort of their friendship is tested at times and struggles because of the way that Jobs really treats people and in a way kind of looks down on them. Here's a clip.
I was angry. You were saying things about the Apple II, and the way you were treating the team was...
You get a free pass for life. I gotta get back on stage. We got like 2 minutes of rehearsal time left.
Do you understand how condescending that just was? Well, maybe you don't.
I don't want to see you get dragged off in
I get a free pass for life from you. You give out the pass... You give them to me?
You're gonna have a stroke, little buddy.
What did you do? What did you do? Why has Lisa not heard of me?
Man, how many 4th graders have heard of you?
You can't write code. You're not an engineer. You're not a designer. You can't put a hammer to a nail. I built the circuit board. The graphical interface was stolen from Xerox PARC. Jeff Raskin was the leader of the Mac team before you threw him off his own project. Everything, someone else designed the box. So how come 10 times in a day, I read Steve Jobs as a genius? What do you do?
I play the orchestra. And you're a good musician. You sit right there. You're the best in your role.
You have Michael Fassbender doing a really good performance in this film, that he was, I believe, Oscar nominated for it. He wasn't going to win because of the competition, but he does a fantastic job in this. And I don't really think of him being in it as Steve Jobs. I think of this as being a drama that is based around a Steve Jobs-like character, because I found it to be particularly detached from Steve Jobs. I don't really know Steve Jobs, but the problem is that the film doesn't do anything to really make it feel like it's a real person. It's more like just a good stage play with interesting characters, because it is based on a book by Walter Isaacson, but it's more a point of anything that it being directed by Danny Boyle is that it is an Aaron Sorkin screenplay, and Aaron Sorkin has this thing of writing these characters, writing dialogue in particular that's really fast paced, and basically there's so much dialogue in the film that it's done at such a pace as usual to cram it all into the running time. And I do really like the film. I do really like Michael Fassbender in it. I really like Seth Rogen in the film. I was really blown away by him most of all. But I do find that it's a film which, saying that it's a Steve Jobs film and calling it Steve Jobs, I found really just doesn't connect for me. I dislike that it's called that. It's the odd thing. I think that it's a good drama, well acted, well directed, well shot, and a beautifully done drama around a sort of a man who is questionably one of the biggest, best salesmen and sort of innovators of our time. But it does that without actually showing us anything of what he did. I would have loved to have seen. There were a couple of moments where there's little flashbacks to things and scenes where he has encounters with other people and he's arguing and stuff. But still, I would have loved to have seen one film about, because it has different things. As I said, there's one of them was the IMAX. One of them is the creation of this new thing, the Next box and everything, and then there's one of them which is before that, but one of them he alludes to having, you know, the idea of the iPhone and being able to put phone songs on phones and stuff like that. I would have loved to have just seen a 2-hour film about the creation of the iPhone and Steve Jobs' influential part in that, and I think it would have been a much more interesting and realistic portrayal of Steve Jobs than Steve Jobs does.
Right, that's it for the new releases for this week. Norman the North. I had that.
Is there a iPhone gag in there? There's got to be an iPhone gag in it somewhere.
There is a phone gag.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there is a phone gag. TV movies of the week. Then.
I've just got 2, but they're kind of like a double bill thing. Because they're actually on. One of them is on tonight and tomorrow, which obviously we've missed tonight's. And they're repeated then on Friday the 25th and Saturday 26th. And that is not the last 2, but 2 of the last Fast and Furious films with 5 and 6. 5 is on tonight, 6 is on tomorrow night, but I don't know the times exactly. But on Friday night you have film 4, Fast and Furious 5 at 11:05 p.m, and Saturday the 26th at 9 o'clock is Fast and Furious 6.
Well, I've gone for 3 completely different films. I'm leaving my choice till last. But on Friday the 25th at 9 p.m. on the horror channel, Black Death, the Christopher Smith film with about the plague.
Is that? Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's Eddie Redmayne's in the movie. It also has, I can't remember his name. Oh, he dies in pretty much everything that he's in.
Jason.
No, he gets killed in the first season.
Not Jason Isaacs. Okay. Oh, Sean Bean.
Sean Bean, yes. Sean Bean's in it. He gets killed.
I was thinking actually I got the wrong name. I was thinking Sean Pertwee, but not him though.
I think I've only ever seen one film with Sean Bean in it where he doesn't die. Two films. He doesn't die in The Martian.
Yeah.
And he doesn't die in the first Silent Hill film. And he dies in the second one. So there's 2 films where he doesn't die in, but yeah, he gets brutally killed.
I'm sure there must be more than that.
Nope, there's only 2. But yeah, he brutally gets killed in Black Death. It's a grim watch, but it's a very good film from Christopher Smith. On Channel 4 on Wednesday the 23rd, going into Thursday the 24th, so very early on in the morning, or late at night, depending on where you look at it. At 2 a.m. on Channel 4 is Goon, the Sean William Scott comedy movie about ice hockey. I was going to say skating.
Yeah, and it has one of the best opening, just you have no idea what's going on moments. I won't explain what it is, but you know what I'm talking about when I say the opening shot is kind of a what the heck.
Yeah, and that's sort of like indicative of the kind of film that it is, but it's on at 2 o'clock in the morning, so you need some kind of recording device to actually record it to watch it. But my film, my TV movie of the week, again, it's on very early on in the morning, 2:20 a.m. on Wednesday the 23rd or Tuesday the 22nd, depending on where you look at it, late at night. It's on the horror channel, Donnie Darko. Donnie Darko, I absolutely adore that movie. By Richard Kelly. He's never done a better film than Donnie Darko. It is a movie that is guaranteed. Well,
that's funny enough you mentioned that, because I mentioned earlier Southland Tales, which is an odd film, and I know a lot of people don't like it, but I really like it.
But yeah, Donnie Darko is in my top 5 films of all time. It definitely it rings a bell with me every single time I watch it. Jake Gyllenhaal is absolutely brilliant in the movie. It's a very hard watch at times, but it's a very interesting, very intelligent movie. Brilliant acting from everybody involved in the film, even Patrick Swayze. It's very strange to actually see in that kind of movie, but yeah, he's really good in the film. So that's my TV movie of the week. Donnie Darko, Horror Channel, Tuesday the 22nd, late at night, or early Wednesday the 23rd morning at 2:20 a.m. That's it for this week's show. Your movie of the week.
10 Cloverfield Lane.
Yes, 10 Cloverfield Lane. Across the board. It's the ultimate movie
of
the week.
It's rare that happens.
Yep, we'll be back next week with a review of probably two of the biggest films this year so far. Disney going up against Marvel.
No, not Marvel.
Haha, I was waiting for that. DC. Disney going up against DC. So it would have been interesting if they went up against themselves. But yeah, Disney against DC, so it's Zootopia against Batman versus Superman, Superman versus Batman, which way you want to put it. So yeah, we're looking at those two films next week. There might be a third one in Eddie the Eagle. It depends on if we actually be able to get to see it or not. Preview weeks is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week. It's officially out next Friday, but we might actually be sneaky and sneak it in on next week's show. Make sure you check out the website mondaymovieshow.co.uk, facebook.com/Monday Movie Show, at Monday Movie Show on Twitter. I'm at Cryptic Tadpole, Andrew's at EHDVD. Couple of shout outs. My friend, he has started a shop on Facebook. If you're into your fashion, go to Ever, EVER, Dear Boutique. So it's facebook.com/EVERDAY Boutique. If you want to buy any fashion for your girlfriend, wife, any watches, anything like that, just tell them I sent you. Stuart, who you've heard a clip there, advert, he does his movie show, his horror show, which he's recording one on Sunday this week, so make sure you check him out from Page 2 Screen. We've also got followingthenerd.com, where you'll find this show and the video game show Following T Game, at Following T Game on Twitter, which I'm recording a new show on Saturday night. So I've got 3 podcasts, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Enjoy.
Yeah, joy of joy. It's a good job that I'm not in charge of the one on Sunday, but I am in charge of the one on Saturday. Double joy of joy. That's at 10 o'clock, so it'll be live on this feed on Saturday night, talking about video games and LARPing. Do you have a clue what LARPing is?
Is it to do with multiplayer online games, MMORPGs?
Live role-playing game. If you've seen a film called Knights of Badastum, it's that.
Ah, okay.
So yeah,
it kind of does then.
Yeah, we're slightly talking about that, but yeah, make sure you check that show out on Saturday night. But until next week, we'll play you out a clip for the smallest movie out this week, Batman vs Superman. I was going to do a Norm of the North joke, but I can't be bothered with that. So until next week, goodbye.
Bye bye.
What's your position, the Bat Vigilante in Gotham?
Daily Planet. Wait, do I own this one? Or is that the other guy?
Civil liberties are being trampled on in your city. Good people living in fear.
Don't believe everything you hear, son.
I've seen it, Mr. Wayne. He thinks he's above the law.
The Daily Planet criticizing those who think they're above the law is a little hypocritical. What'd you say? Considering every time your hero saves a cat out of a tree, you read a puff-piece editorial about an alien who, if he wanted to, could burn the whole place down. There wouldn't be a damn thing we could do to stop it.
Most of the world doesn't share your opinion, Mr. Wayne.
Maybe it's the Gotham City in me. We just have a bad history with freaks dressed like clowns.